Hello, and a warm welcome to our show, Love Athletics. In this program, we bring you the latest highlights from our sport with expert input from different continental areas. And we're delighted to have as our guest today Kenyan journalist James Wokabi. Hello, James. Lovely to see you, and a big thank you for joining us.
Hi, Anna. Nice to see you. It's been a minute.
It's been ages. Now, many of you know that I like to get started by getting to know our guest a little bit better. So here we go. So, James, I've known you for many years, but I never asked you what motivated you to get involved in athletics and start a career as a sports journalist.
Well, Anna, thank you so much for having me on your show. Now, why did I start sports? This is got to do with my father. My father played basketball in the Kenyan League back in the 80s, and he loved sports. So I grew up around someone who took me to football games and basketball games. And then, of course, as you start to grow up, then you start to realize there is something that Kenya is almost always famous for. And of course, this is in the mid 80s, 87, 88. Now, 87, we had the All African Games. And John Ngugi lit the torch for the games, and that was something monumental. And then, of course, the following year was the Olympic Games in Seoul. Kenya was coming back in a big way. So we all got a chance. We couldn't actually watch. We were either listening to the radio or reading from the newspapers, but we got a chance to see Kenya shine. And the memories of 1988 Seoul Olympics have a big reason why I love athletics, because again, John Ngugi won gold. Paul Ereng, who was then a student, won gold, was a big thing. The Nation did some really good story about him, and the intro was, "It is ecstatic." Like that was the whole intro about it. And from there, I was hooked. Then, of course, John Ngugi, world cross country. So Kenya was famous for world cross country. So the Olympics, cross country, John Ngugi, Paul Ereng. Then, of course, after John Ngugi, there was Sigei for a bit, the horse, but I really didn't quite pick up with him. Then there was Paul Tergat, of course. Tergat, the gentleman of athletics, smooth guy, runs so smoothly. He looks so elegant when running. And from then I was hooked. So before, I always wanted to be a journalist. So after that, it was a case of follow your passion. And athletics slowly but surely became this passionate thing that I have followed throughout my entire life.
That is one of the most fabulous races in athletics history. The 10,000 meters final in Sydney, which was won by a hair's breadth with two fantastic athletes, Haile and Paul Tergat. That is one of my all-time top moments in athletics.
Understandably so. We didn't like Haile a lot after this race. I spent years before I could finally like him, because I felt as if he denied Tergat that win right at the end. But later on, as I grew to understand the sport more and I met Haile, I was able to understand why it was special for both of them. Initially, I wasn't sure, but the more you learn the sport, the more you learn the rivalry between them and the fact that it's all done on the track. Then now I came to appreciate just how great this race was for both of them, because even today when you talk to both of them, they still talk about it and just how close it was and how in the end, looking back, it was a great, great race for them.
No, definitely. And that's one of the things I love about Haile and Paul Tergat, is that they were rivals on the track, but then they did a lot of things together, especially humanitarian work against land miles, Operation Smile. They were really, really very close off the track, and just confirms what wonderful human beings they are.
Yes, two great guys who have a friendship off the track that continues to date. Most people really, they like each other. We see it a lot even in the current guys. You see guys who say we are friends, but for them, it's something that goes on. Last year, I'll give you a short story. Last year, I was doing Olympic documentaries for Supersport. And once I spoke to Haile and I told Haile, I've spoken to you, I need to speak to Tergat. The only thing I needed was to tell Tergat I've spoken to Haile. And he was on, because he's like, if Haile is talking to you, then I also need to talk to you so that we can tell both sides of that race in Sydney from the year 2000.
Wow. And so, James, what are your three favorite athletics moments from your career in sport, in athletics?
There are so many, Anna. I have struggled to boil down to three, because remember, we were in Berlin when Usain Bolt broke the world record, but I couldn't fit it in because, come on, I'm Kenyan. I've got to go with something that resonates with me in my heart. And once again, the first one, of course, is David Rudisha. 2012, August the 9th, Olympic Stadium in London. I knew what he wanted to do. He'd told me what he wanted to do, but to see it come together, to see everyone else run the rest of their lives, to see all those guys set all those PBs and African and national records was just something incredible. A guy at the really, really top of his career, a man who understood his race. Even when you talk to him today and he takes you through that race, it still gives me goosebumps. So that for me, the highlight of all time, no pacer, no nothing, but for him to be able to plan and execute and taking the pressure, because he had so much pressure going into it. It's the one title he didn't have. For him to be able to do it, set a world record, run 1:49.1. Think about it. Even with the new shoes now, the new shoe technology, no one is getting anywhere close to 1:40.91. It was that good. And for me to be able to watch it, for me to be able to witness it, magnificent. So that's my first one, Anna. If I move to my second one, Samuel Kamau Wanjiru. In Beijing, 2008, Kenya, rich tradition in marathon, never won the Olympic gold. Then here you are, you're up. There's a 21-year-old. He hasn't run too many marathons, but he's different. He runs different. He's built different. He's got different everything else about him. And for him to go out as hard as he went, for the commentators to say kilometer by kilometer, he's going to pay for it. They said he was going to pay for it until he got it to the bird's nest. For him to do it and again set an Olympic record, make a piece of Kenyan history and do it with such poise and such elegance about him, magnificent. It's one of those days you sit back and you go like, this is a great moment. And I absolutely loved it. And also because he took Kenya where no one had gone before. Tergat had tried, he'd failed. Eric Wainaina had tried, he'd failed. Martin Lell everyone else had tried. But this kid, 21 years old, who people thought he was too new, too young, went ahead and did. For me, that is a huge, huge moment. And that's one of my favorite moments. The third one is an odd one and an interesting one because most Kenyans wouldn't pick it. Now, Berlin 2009, my first ever World Championships. And I'm watching the 10,000 meters. Now, Kenyans always lose this race. Every single day. We lose it, without a doubt. Every single day, Kenyans lose it. So what happens? The Kenyans are running, and before you know it, Lynette Masai, the last 100 meters, somehow just finds it within her. She somehow just finds that extra speed. I don't know where she got it from because she's not a quick finisher. I don't know what happened to Meselet Melkam. I don't know what happened to every other Ethiopian in that race. But I remember because we were seated way up at the Olympic Stadium in Berlin. We started running down as she was trying to finish. And by the time she was finishing, we were almost at the track. And then the sheer shock value in her face. She couldn't believe it that she's won. And I thought, magnificent, because it's probably the highlight of her career. She never ever went to any more heights than that. But the shock on her face, the shock on the Ethiopian's face, and the joy on our faces. I mean, that's what makes me feel like, yeah, this is fantastic. So that would be Lynette. Can I do a fourth one?
No, go ahead. We're actually allowing you 5.
So if I'm to go to the fourth one, I go to 2016 Rio Olympics. Now, 10,000 meters is run, and Almaz Ayana destroys the whole field. When we interviewed Vivian Cheruiyot after the race, she says she kept repeating, the pace was too fast. The pace was too fast. And she was broken. She really couldn't give a coherent interview. She was broken because she was feeling, this is my time. But this lady who's come up, she's just too good. So a few days later, six days later, the women's 5,000 meters is run. And Ayana again takes off. But this time, you notice, Vivian doesn't try to go with her. And then her and Helen Obiri slowly work their way back into it. And just her joy when she finally overtook her with maybe 600 meters to go, 600 meters to go. Her joy when she's running the final lap, you can tell she's already celebrating. And whereas a week earlier, I couldn't talk to her in the mix zone because she was broken, she was crushed. This time she walks to you and she gave you a speech. You didn't have to talk to her because, again, a Kenyan athlete who's been top of her game since 1998 when she made her debut for Kenya, all the way to 2016. She's finally gotten the one medal she didn't have, which was an Olympic gold. I felt it was so special. And to probably the greatest ever Kenyan Olympian, or at least one of the greatest, not the greatest, but one of the greatest, because, yeah, one of the greatest. You probably would have Kip Keino and Eliud ahead of her, but one of the greatest, definitely the greatest female athlete in this country has ever produced. The only thing she didn't have was a world record. Fantastic from Vivian Cheruiyot. And the last one, Eliud in Tokyo last year, Eliud Kipchoge. Now, the only reason I picked this one is because, again, the amount of pressure that Eliud had going into the Olympics. He's done everything else. The only thing he didn't have was an Olympic gold. So he goes to Rio 2016. The pressure on him, so much pressure on him, but he handles it with his customary grace, quiet, elegant. He's so calm in the way he does it. There's that, I would call it a rumor or urban legend that when people started shifting, he told them, guys, relax. I haven't started moving yet. How true it is or how not, we'll never know. But for him to be able to step up, win the gold in Rio, and then come back in Tokyo where there's even more pressure on him, the IOC tweeted and literally said, Eliud is going to defend his title tomorrow morning. But for him to be fist bumping guys on the road and then decide it's time for me to go, take off, win, finish so far ahead of everyone else that he was now seated there welcoming people to come back. I think there are not many Kenyan athletes that handle pressure very well. We tend to crumble under pressure. But David, Ezekiel Kemboi, and Eliud are the exception to that rule. Guys who are not scared of the pressure. Guys who just look at it and they say, we are good to go, and they deal with it. So for me, Eliud, just for his ability to handle the weight of expectation, gives it for me.
Definitely. Another totally fantastic athlete, somebody I really like very, very much, both in competition and outside. Great human being. So we'll come back to learn more about our guest, but let's take a look now at what's been happening in our sport over the past fortnight. So here are the top picks from the last 2 weeks, starting with road events. On October 9th, Chicago Marathon was contested in the US. Now, we had enthused in the last show over Eliud Kipchoge's world record in Berlin, but Chicago saw another fabulous result by Kenya's 2019 world champion and reigning Chicago champion, Ruth Chepngetich, who won in 2:14:18, the second ever fastest time, just missing Bridget Koskay's world record of 2:14:04, set on the same course in 2019 by 14 seconds and improving her own PB by almost 3 minutes. Chepngetich, like Kipchoge in Berlin, started very fast in a blistering 2 hours 10 pace through 10 kilometers and 15 kilometers, but fell off world record pace in the last 3K. And the USA's 31-year-old Emily Sisson ran the race of her life in a more conservative strategy with negative splits, 69:26 and 69:03, to finish second in 2 hours 18:29. Sisson, who had run her first ever marathon in London in 2019, improved the NACAC and US record of 2:19:12, which had been set by Kira D'Amato in Houston this January, by 43 seconds, and her own PB by over 4.5 minutes. Her coach had stated before the race that he was hoping for a sub-20 mark, but Sisson went beyond his expectations, climbing to 24th spot in the all-time list. And Kenya's Vivian Kiplagat was third in 2 hours 20:52. The men's race saw Kenya's 2021 Boston Marathon winner, Benson Kipruto, take victory in a PB of 2 hours 04:24, the third fastest winning time in Chicago, ahead of reigning champion Seifu Tura from Ethiopia, 2:04:49, and compatriot John Korir, 2:05:01. Now, there's another athlete, as well as Benson Kipruto, whom we see, who I'd like to celebrate, and that is Britain's 77-year-old Gina Little, who concluded the Chicago race in 4 hours 37:15. But what makes her performance amazing is that it brought the total number of marathons she had completed to a whopping 602, including 38 times the London Marathon and 31 times Berlin. Congratulations, Mrs. Little. Other marathons were also held on the 9th of October. In Lisbon, Ethiopia's Andualem Sheferao led a clean sweep, winning in the men's race in 2 hours 05:45, ahead of compatriots Haftu Asefa, 206.33, and Birhan Tesfaye, 207.04. On the women's side, Kenya's Barnes Kitur took the win in 2 hours 24.17, ahead of Ethiopian Sore Amente, 2:25.57, and Buzunesh Gudeta, 2:26.01. On the same day in Munich, Kenya's Philemon Kipchumba won the men's race in 2:07.28 from Ethiopia's Mengitsu Gezaheny, 2:07.56, and Eritrea's Berhane Tsegai, 2:08.10. Agnes Kano made it a double victory for Kenya, taking the women's race in 2:23.26 ahead of former world champion Mare Dibaba of Ethiopia with 2:24.12. And in Eindhoven, Pius Karanja won the men's race in 2:06.55, leading a Kenyan clean sweep, while the women's race was very fast, with Kenya's Pascalia Chepkoskei winning in 2:22.47 from Ethiopia's Ayale Aseyech in 2:22.52. Now, the day before, on 8 October in San Francisco, the USA's CJ Albertson, whose training was focused on the Valencia Marathon on 4 December, decided to test his shape by competing in the 50K Ruth Anderson Memorial Endurance Run. He ended up not only winning the race, but setting the world record in 2 hours 38:43. The 50K world record was added to the list of official world records at the beginning of the year, with the recognized mark being the 2 hours 42:07 run by Ketema Bekele Nagese in Port Elizabeth in 2021. A faster time of 2:40:13 was recorded by Stephen Mokoka in Behera on 6 March this year, but is pending ratification. And in any case, Alberson was faster than both those marks. Now, James, I must admit that there are many excellent Kenyan runners, and sometimes we get a little bit lost talking about them, as we lack background information to help make them stand out as unique. So I miss the days when you and Mutwiri were compiling wonderful focus on athlete biographies of Kenyan athletes, which really let us know the athletes, their personalities, their backgrounds. There are not many reliable sources of information from Africa, but also for Asia, South America, and Eastern Europe. And this penalizes them, as fans do not often get to know them and their compelling stories.
Yes, and we opened a window. Focus on Africa athletes was such a good project, such a good program, because it helped us tell the story behind the athletes. People knew who the athlete was. It was not just another Kenyan showed up, another Kenyan ran, another Kenyan didn't have a finishing kick, another Kenyan got lapped. It gave people life. It gave people personality. You are able to understand more about the athlete once you know a little bit more about them. Once you knew their family, once you knew why they got into running, it was just one of those things that helped us humanize them. You know, instead of seeing them as these guys who just get on and run. And it's a pity that it's not being done nowadays. I feel like it's a huge gap that it's being left now, that people, the way people know Rudisha and they know Aspel Kiprop and they know Eliud Kipchoge, they can't quite know the new girls. They can't quite know Perez. They can't quite know Bridget Koske. Why? Because there's no one to tell that story. And it was such a good program in just getting also the athletes to understand, why do you need to talk to the media? Why do you need to tell your story? How does that help you? Because not everyone is like Haile, who understands the media and sees how the media works. No, they also understood the value of us telling their story and their story being accurate. Key thing, being accurate. It wasn't just a story told from somewhere. No, they gave their story such that by the time we had done maybe 2-3 years, now the athletes would walk up to you and tell you, please tell my story. Why aren't you asking me about my story? Like when we went for the trials this year, because we went for the trials with Motweri for Oregon and for Birmingham and for World Under 20 in Cali, even the athletics guys are asking, where did you guys go to? How come we don't see these stories anymore? It just tells you the impact that that program that you ran for those many years had, not just on us as journalists, but on the athletes themselves, and even on people in general who have an interest in athletics. You knew if you want to know something about an athlete, go to FOA on the World Athletics website, and you found it. I think it was really, really good because you gave them a human touch. You made people understand the person behind the athlete. And I think it was really, really, really special, and something that Africa especially needed, because like you said, Africa, there's not a lot of ways of finding out about information, but this was a clear way of telling an athlete's story and giving their background and why they are the way they are.
Definitely. I mean, I thought it was really a very, very useful program. And as you say, in Kenya, it changed the mindset of the athletes, because they were, before that, they're, notoriously not very keen to engage with the media. And then seeing, first of all, that you treated them with respect, that you told their story as they told you. You didn't kind of invent facts. And then they saw that as well as being on the IAAF website, these bios were also published in the Kenyan paper. So they started to realize the importance. And then, as you said, they were the ones to come and ask you, when are you writing my stories? And for me, that was really absolutely fabulous, part of the Focus on Athletes project, that the athletes understand their relationship with the media and that they start to feel comfortable with it.
Yes, it got to a point where we could actually line them up and say, you will come after this one, you will come after this one. And they were willing to wait because, like you said, you spoke with them clearly. You told them, this is what we are going to write. Some of them, you actually used to print the bios and take to them. Like you would print and say, this is what we wrote about this one, this is what we wrote about this one. What do you think? Then people would look at it and go like, oh, that makes sense. And I'll remind you a story. We are in Addis for the Africa Championships with James Stapleton. He walks by and then you tell him, please have a look. And then he says, no one writes anything from Kenya that is factual about David Rudisha. And then as he read the story, he went on saying, aha, aha. Then in the end, he said, this is the closest we have come to his story. This is the one piece of writing that tells his actual story. Now, that I think in itself was a great window into showing that we were able to tell their stories as they are. We didn't add anything, we didn't subtract anything, and we quoted them. So they didn't have to feel like we are enemies. Because look, you know Kenya, Anna, you've been to Kenya many, many times. Athletes see the media as pseudo enemies. If they don't do well, they're your enemies. If they do well, maybe again, they're your enemies. So you were able to break that barrier and they were able to talk and express themselves and tell us really interesting stories about themselves that we didn't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. So that was a great job on you guys' part and on the part of all the other writers who contributed to this project. So unfortunately, it's not happening anymore. So let's get back to recent athletics action. As
Yes.
Autumn Marathon season produced more fireworks on the following weekend, 15-16 October. And on 16 October in the Amsterdam Marathon, two Ethiopian track stars were to make their debut on the distance, Almaz Ayana and Genzebe Dibaba. And what a debut it was. Almaz, who had won, as you recall, the Olympic 10,000 meter gold in 2016 in a world record, ran the fastest ever marathon debut, winning in a course record of 2 hours 17:19, leading an Ethiopian clean sweep ahead of fellow debutants Genzebe Dibaba, 2 hours 18:05, and Shehai Gemeshu, 2:18:59. Almaz, who had also won 2 world titles in 2015 and 2017, but then her career had stalled due to injury. She proved last Sunday that talent does not vanish into thin air. In the men's race, Segaye Getachew set a personal best of 2 hours 04:49 to make it an Ethiopian double, as he took victory ahead of Kenya's Titus Kipruto, 2:04:54, and compatriot Bazeze Asmare, 2:04:57. Though not quite as fast as the women's race, it was a very high quality competition, with the top 9 finishers breaking the 2:06 barrier for only the second time in history, bettered only by the 2020 Valencia Marathon with 11, and the top 17 athletes breaking the 2 hours 10 barrier. But let's come back to the women's race. Almaz Ayana jumped to number 7 on the all-time lists, and Genzebe Dibaba moved into number 19. Now, there's a very interesting article in letsrun.com pointing out how Genzebe has thus become only one of 4 athletes to be ranked in the top 100 in the all-time lists in both the 1500 and the marathon. Genzebe still holds the world record at 1500, and as we saw, is now ranked 19th in the marathon. So 3 other athletes share this, 2 other Ethiopian women and 1 man, but they are nowhere near Genzebe's level and could soon be out of the top 100 in at least 1 event. Gelete Burka is currently ranked 74 in the 1500 and 77 in the marathon. Besu Sado is currently ranked equal 98th in the 1500 and equal 99th in the marathon. And Mo Farah is currently ranked number 13 in the 1500 and equaled 91 in the marathon. Amazing Genzebe. Now, James, Kenya remains a powerhouse in road running, but Ethiopian ladies are coming on strongly. And Etselbet Gidey is still to make her debut in the distance in the coming weeks.
It's almost like there is a wave. You know the way Kenya a few years ago had so many young ladies running the marathon. Now there is a wave. There's the lady who won Berlin, ridiculous the way she won it, really, really fast. Then there's the one I think is the best of all of them, Yalemza Yahualau, the one who was in London, top girl. She's got this engine. And then you've got Almaz Ayana, who I think might be the biggest headache for Kenya of all of them. Why? Because I think Almaz Ayana is built for the marathon. She's got this ability to stay. She has a great engine. She can't kick, but she has a great engine, and she can be metronomic. She can just keep on moving kilometer after kilometer at a very steady pace. And I feel that's going to be huge for her. And remember, she's taken a few years off, injury, of course, then motherhood. So she comes back with what Kenyan athletes call nguvu ya pili. It means like second strength because of becoming a mother. I think she's going to be someone to watch out for. I think she's going to be really, really, really good. And she's going to give the likes of Bridget Koskei a run for their money. What do I think about Genzebe? I'm not as excited about Genzebe as I am about Ayana. I think Genzebe's career is always been shrouded with something here or there that's not exactly straight. And I think that bothers me a little bit. The fact that she's barely run in the last 2 years also bothers me a little bit. And it's something the Ethiopians are doing. Quite a number of them have barely run in the last 2 years. The girl who won in Berlin, Ayana, Genzebe, and that just a bit worries me a little bit because you taught us, Anna, progression is key. You taught us about progression and how to see progression. That worries me a little bit, but I'm not too worried about Genzebe. If Tirunesh couldn't hack the marathon, Genzebe, I don't think she's going to be a really good marathoner, but she's not going to be at the level of Almaz and the level of Yalemza. Yalemza for me is the top. She's the top one. But Kenyans need to be worried a little bit about it because all these girls are young, other than Almaz. The rest of them are young. Yalemza is young. The girl from Berlin, very young. And that tells you how much they have to go in it. Kenyans need, then when you look at the Kenyan team, a bit of them are a lot, they're in their late 20s to 30, 31. So maybe that's a worry. That's why I was a bit disappointed that Ruth didn't get that world record because you get the feeling it's going to go. If Almaz goes the way she's going, it's going to go. So it's something else for Kenyans to worry. And again, Ethiopians have always followed what Kenyans do. Kenyans were great in the steeplechase. Now it's the Ethiopians are following in it. Kenyans maybe were the more dominant guys in the marathon. Now the Ethiopians are coming. And it's just another thing for Kenyans to sit back and figure out how do we react to it? And especially because the Ethiopians are young. They're taking it at 21 years old, 22 years old, 23 years old. This is what Samuel Wanjiru did in 2008 when he was 21. So now they're taking that line, which means the competition gets higher. I just hope the higher the competition, the better it is, because ultimately, like Haile says, without Ethiopia, there is no Kenya. Without Kenya, there is no Ethiopia. So it's a good thing, but the Kenyan ladies have been warned. The Ethiopians are coming. The ladies are coming. And between Almaz and Yalemza, trouble looms from a Kenyan point of view.
Yes, that's right. Now, on a general level, Let'sRun.com also had an excellent analysis on the new level reached by women's marathon. So while a maximum of 13 athletes in 2019 had broken 2 hours 20 in the last 5 years, the number in 2022 was 30, more than double, and the season is not yet over. And the improvement is also marked for performances under 2 hours 19, 8 again in 2019 versus 25 in 2022, including the top 3 in Amsterdam, all debutants. And under 2 hours 18, only 3 in 2019 and 2021 versus 8 already this year. So women's marathon is certainly reaching a new level, and there are still many races, including New York Marathon in early November and the super fast Valencia Marathon at the beginning of December. Now, other top marathons were also held on 16 October, including Cape Town and Toronto. In Cape Town, home hero Stephen Mokoka defended his title in 2 hours 09:59, while in the women's race, Ethiopia's Meseret Dinke set a course record of 2:24:04. In Toronto, Ethiopia's Yihunling Adane won the men's race in 2 hours 07:18, while Kenya's Antonina Kwambai won the women's race in 2:23:20. Also on 16 October, Delhi Half Marathon was held, and victory in the men's race went to Chala Regassa in 60:30 in a tight race over Kenya's Felix Kipkoech, 60:33, and Ethiopian compatriot Diribi Boki in 60:34, while the women's race was dominated by former world cross-country champion Irene Cheptai, who won in 66:42. On the same weekend, the World Cross Tour was heating up with the first gold level event held in Cardiff. 18-year-old Pamela Kosgei, the younger sister of world marathon record holder Bridget, won the women's 6.4 kilometer race over 2 British athletes, Amelia Kirk and Jess Gibson. On the men's side, former world under 25,000 meter champion Edward Zakayo took victory on the 9.6 kilometers course over Ugandans Joel Ayeko and Rogers Kibet. Now, James, can you tell us something about Pamela Kosgei? Not a full length focus on athletes' bio.
Well, Anna, she certainly has got the genes because her elder sister is a world record holder in the marathon. So she has the genes. She tried her luck at the World Under 20, finished 4th in the 5,000 meters and then 3rd in the 3,000 meters steeplechase. Went to Cali. She was 5th in the steeplechase, 10:06:46. So there is potential in there. I am interesting that she started running the cross because, you know, that's normally for Kenyans, that comes so naturally. Let's just hope that she can find her way through it, because when you have an older sister who's a world record holder, who's a top marathoner, who's an Olympic medalist, then the expectations are high. But if you're talking about genes, she has the genes. You just have to be a little bit patient with her.
We will. She's only 18. Now, James,
but you know,
sorry.
So, but you know, in Kenya, the patience wears thin very quickly. That's why the key thing we've got to preach: patience, patience. She's going to deliver.
Yeah, the patience mantra should go to the fans as well, and to the media in some cases. Let them interiorize and really understand the importance of patience.
Yes, and just to take it easy on her, because the demand, and you understand this, Anna, the demand in Kenya for success so high because the talent is so much. So people are like, can you 1, 2, no, move your own. But if we give her time and let her develop at her own pace, who knows how well she can do.
Yes, definitely. Now, James, the Kenyan cross-country season has also started, and that's a very interesting circuit. So tell us about it, how it's structured, what are the major events?
Well, Anna, as you know, we normally have a cross-country season, especially in the year where there's a World Championships. Now there's a World Year Championships next year. So we've already started. There's 5 legs across the country where runners sort of run. And then you'll have the county championships. These are like the regional championships for each region. Nowadays, we have 47 counties, Anna. So that's a huge number of championships among us, each region. And then we are going to have what we have called the cross country for the various disciplines. By disciplines, I mean the army will have theirs, the police will have theirs, the prisons will have theirs, and then all this culminates at the national championships on 21st of January 2023. Then we shall pick a team. We shall put it in camp in Kigali, as is tradition in Embu. Embu is maybe 200 kilometers out of Nairobi. And then hopefully they shall then proceed to Australia for the World Cross Country Championships. Remember, for Kenyans, World Cross Country is such a big thing. For most of us, cross country is where everything starts. And that's why I said John Gugi, William Sigay, Paul Tergat, Helen Obiri. It is such a special thing. And hopefully some of these burgeoning stars, some of these young stars who are coming up, get a chance to compete in it. There's one lady who's already said she wants to do well in it. Let's see how she does. Beatrice Chebet, she had a wonderful 2022. She said, let me try the cross first and then we see what happens in Budapest later on in the year. So hopefully she can go in there and start building, because again, a lot of the older ladies have moved on. There's no Helen, there's no Vivian, there's no Irene Cheptai. So she looks like the best young thing coming up. So we'll see what happens as far as the World Cross is concerned.
Thank you, James. That was really interesting. So let's move on now to stadium events. Outdoor competitions continued in Japan. At the National Sports Festival on 8 October, on her last competition of the season, World Championship Javelin bronze medal, Haruka Kitaguchi recorded her longest throw of 2022 with 65 meters 68, just 32 centimeters short of the national record she had set in 2019. On the 12 to 15 October, the South American Games, or Juegos Deportivos o de Sur, took place in Asunción, Paraguay, and saw a high level of competition with 16 new championships records, 9 among the women, 6 among the men, and 1 in the newly established mixed relay. Top 3 performances among the women included in the long jump, Brazil's Letícia Oro Melo, the World Championship bronze medalist, who landed at 664 to defeat Colombia's World Under-20 silver medalist, Natalia Linares, with 6 meters 43. In the 35 kilometers race, Brazil's Vivian Lira took first place in 2 hours 50:57, 2 days after taking silver in the 20 km behind Ecuador's Glenda Morejon. And the final mark in the top 3 for the women was obtained in the javelin throw by Colombia's Flor Denise Ruiz Hurtado, who heaved her implement to 62.97 to win the contest over Brazil's Jusilene Sales de Lima with 62 meters 42. The top 4 performances among the men included an excellent 20 kilometers race walk, with Ecuador taking the top 2 spots, with Brian Pintado in 1 hour 19:43, ahead of David Hurtado in 1:20:44. Bronze went to Brazil's Caio Bonfim, who then won the 35-kilometer race 2 days later. In the long jump, Peru's Jose Mandros Martinez took gold in 8 meters 07 over Uruguay's Emiliano Lassa with 7:93. And Chilean throwers produced the other 2 top marks, with NCAA champion Claudio Romero taking the discus in 64 meters 99 over Colombia's Mauricio Ortega, 63:59, while Gabriel Kerr won the hammer with 76:81. Other notable performances in Asunción included double relay golds for the Colombian women and a 1,500 5,000 meter double for Argentina's Fedra Aldana Luna Zambran. Among the men, The same 1,500, 5,000 meter double was achieved by another Argentinian, Federico Bruno. And while the winning mark in the pole vault, 5 meters 45, is not of the highest level, I am totally impressed by the longevity of Argentina's Germán Chiaravillo, the 2003 under-18 world champion and 2006 under-20 world champion, who at 35 years old is still the third best athlete in the continent with a seasonal best of 5 meters 60 and is still winning continental titles. Felicidades, Germán. And as you know, I like to point out unexpected wins. The gold medal taken by Panama's Tamar Chambers over 800 meters deserved to be highlighted, as he won the race in 1:46.99, a national record, to defeat his more titled opponents. Brazil, as expected, topped the medal table, but Argentina had an excellent showing thanks to its mix of experienced athletes and new stars, placing second ahead of Colombia, who had 9 more medals but 1 less gold. So 9 countries won gold and 12 countries won at least 1 medal. Almost at the same time in Kuwait, on 13 to 16 October, the Asian under-18 athletics championships were held. And the first victory was already the fact that the competition could be organized. It was the first continental event to be held after the Asian Championships in Doha in April 2019, as the pandemic had since caused cancellations and postponement of all other events. Top results to note include Thailand's sprint star, Puripol Bunson, who dominated the 100 meters in a championship record of 10:33 into a slight headwind, finishing 0.40 ahead of his nearest rival, while his 200-meter win in 21.53, also into a headwind, was a much closer affair, as Kuwait's Yaqub Al-Azemi was just 200ths behind. Korea's high jumper Jinwoo Choi confirmed his continental and indeed global dominance, clearing 2 meters 21 for gold, 20 centimeters higher than the silver medalist. Another star of the age category, Uzbekistan's Sharifa Davronova, outclassed her competitors in the treble jump with 13 meters 23, after also taking gold in the long jump in 6 meters 06. 2 other doubles were achieved among the women by Indonesian sprinter Valentine Vanessa Lonteng, who clocked 10:69 and 24:06, the latter into a strong headwind, while Chinese Taipei thrower Chang Qingyuan took both the shot put and discus with 17 meters 82 and 45 meters 42 respectively. India, Chinese Taipei, and Uzbekistan took top spots in the medal table, while Iran again showed its depth of talent but had less gold than its rivals. 15 countries won gold, 18 countries won at least 1 medal. Now, after reviewing the action of the past fortnight on the roads, stadia, and in cross-country, it's high time to come back to our guest and ask, James, so what were your favorite athletics moments so far this year?
Well, Anna, we were spoiled for choice this year because there was Commonwealth Games, there was the World Championships, there's all those marathons, there's the World Under-20 in Cali. My all-time favorite, my number 1 on my list, is Mary Moraa winning the Commonwealth Games 800 meters title. Now, she'd come off Oregon, where she had won bronze, and then she was running this in Birmingham, the home of Kelly Hodgkinson, and the build-up was all about Kelly Hodgkinson winning on home soil. But then here comes out, it's not just she won it, it's the way she won it. You ran so fast the first 100, and then you slow down all the way to the back of the pack, and then with 200 to go, you start pushing again. I'm not quite sure whether it was by design or default. I'm not sure why she ran the way she ran, but just the look on her face as when she wins, and the dance and the celebration, and the way Kelly just couldn't explain what has happened, because you are the favorite, you are the one the world has been thinking is the one, but here is Mary Mora, who just is showing that she can do this. So happy for her, because again, you know her story, Anna. We pushed her from the 400 to the 800 meters because, I mean, you're a 400 meter athlete in Kenya, may not make as much headway, but she's taken that in her stride, and now she is very, very, very close to world class. So really, really happy for Mary Mora. That would be the first one. The second one would be a girl who I think is going to be the next big thing in steeplechase running, Faith Cherotich. She's still in high school. She's still going to school. But the way she dominated that race in Cali, where straight from the gun, she just shot off and she did not look behind. She just destroyed everyone. And what I like most about her is her demeanor. She's so calm. She's so chilled out. She's not your typical Kenyan athlete. She's very, very relaxed. And then you saw her in the Diamond League, saw her in Brussels, she was fourth, saw her in Zurich, she was third. And she's so young, so talented. And the fact that she was able to just go out there and say, let me show the world what I can do. I really, really, really like her. I think she's going to go places. So for her, another one, great tick. And of course, the third one is the obvious one. Anytime Eliud steps into Berlin, we all expect a world record. And again, the weight of expectation. This man just is not bothered by it. And such is his ability that he won this race. And the first question was, the pacing was wrong. Everyone was like, are you sure the pacing was right? Because we think he could have gone, he was so close to going under 2 hours. We think he could have gone 2:00 something. My target for this race was 2:00:55 because I thought he could do it. But it just shows the measure of the man, that he just goes back and breaks the record once again. And he just takes all that in his stride. When I spoke to him after, he said, you know what? I was so sure I was going to break the world record from kilometer 1. But he's able to handle everything and handle it so well. And my final one, again, is from Africa. It's for a lady who had come so close yet so far since 2019 and the Olympics, Tobia Musan. So close yet so far. Fourth place finish. And then she shows up this year and she is in a class of her own. No one can touch her. To set the world record in a semi-final, to run even faster in the final, even though it was wind assisted, for you to do that in the home of sprinting, because the home of sprinting is the US, not just the US, but in Oregon, for you to shock everyone, for you to see the looks on everyone's faces because they just can't live with her. For me, that's it. Like, she stepped up and said, this is your home, this is the home of sprinting, but I am the top woman here. I am the lady. And to do it to an extent where we are questioning her world record, you have Michael Johnson asking questions. It just tells you how much of a shock it was to them, not to us, because she won the Diamond League last year. But from this year, when she ran at the Africa Champs, then she ran in Paris, you sort of felt something is coming. For her to put it all together finally, for an African to be the world record holder in a sprint event, a hurdles no less, top girl. Absolutely love what she did and the way she did it. It's not just that you win, it's how you win, where you win, and just how dominant you are. Incredible lady.
Definitely. Thank you, James. So as we reach the end of the 2022 season, countries and continental associations are announcing their Athlete of the Year nominees. World Athletics nominated the following athletes among the women. So Tobia Musan, as James just reminded us, set a wonderful world record of 12:12 in the World Championship semi-final. Commonwealth gold, African Championships gold earlier in the season. Chase Ely, silver at the World Indoors, gold at the World Championships, undefeated outdoor, always over 20 meters in the outdoor season. Now, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, amazing. Only 5 women in history had broken 10.70, and Shelly-Ann did it 7 times this season. World Championships gold and silver in the 200 and in the relay. Peruvian race walker Kimberly Garcia, bronze in the World Race Walking Cup in Oman, and then double gold at the World Championships. Now remember, Peru had never won senior gold at a world championship. So that was really amazing. Another Jamaican sprinter, Sharika Jackson, unbeaten at 200 meters this year, at gold at the World Championships and the fastest time since Flojo's world record, and silver in the 100 meters and in the relay. 1500 meter queen Faith Kipyegon, World Championships gold and very close to the world record in the Monaco Diamond League meeting. Ukrainian high jumper Yaroslava Maguchik, World Indoor Championship gold, World Outdoor Championship silver, European Championships gold. Sydney McLaughlin, amazing. World record of 51.41 at the US Championships, and then a totally amazing world record of 50.68 when winning the World Championships in Oregon. Then, for good measure, she also competed in the 4x400 relay, winning gold, and her time in her split was timed in 47.91. She broke 52 seconds 6 times, and that had never been done before June 2021, and only one other woman has ever done it. Totally impressive. Bahamian 400-meter runner Shawnee Miller-Weibo, World Indoor Championship gold, although she had vowed never to compete indoors again. And that was her first senior indoor title, her first senior world title, followed by World Championship gold and 9 victories in 10 races. And finally, Venezuela's triple jump queen Yulimar Rojas, world indoor record at the World Indoors for the her third consecutive gold, World Championships gold, undefeated outdoor, and competed 4 times, and every single time went over 15 meters. Amazing ladies, all of them. Now, James, what do you think of this list?
Well, it's a terrible time to be a judge. And it's terrible for most of the athletes there, because on normal years, most of them would have had a shout. Sharika Jackson, fastest time since Flojo. Mami Rocket, Shelly Ann Fraser-Price, incredible year, which she started in Nairobi. Yulima Rojas, same thing. But this is just one of those years where there's been so much high quality action. Tobia Musan, you name her, it's been such high quality that for the first time, I'm a Kenyan, I love my Kenyan athletes, but I know for a fact Faith Kipyegon is nowhere near the top 3, and I'm okay with it because I understand the level that she's competing against, the level of athletes she's competing against. I think in the end, it goes to Sydney McLaughlin, because when you break the world record twice and you win 2 gold medals at the World Championships in a World Championship year, I think you are just that special. And she is a special, special, special lady. I wonder what would happen if she ran the 400 meters flat, but I feel it is hers to lose. So if I was to list my list of favorites, it would be Sydney McLaughlin, number 1, Tobia Musan, number 2, then number 3 can be maybe Mami Rocket, Shelly Ann Fraser-Price.
I agree with you. I think, these 10 ladies are amazing, but I think what Sydney McLaughlin achieved tops them all, because, the world record she set is mind-blowing. So definitely. And I'm not going to go further, but Shelly Ann, I think, had such a fantastic, so consistent, so always there, amazing. And she's just a lot of fun, so that also helps. Now let's have a look at the nominees among the men. So Christian Tse won 19 of 21 competitions, gold at the World Championships and a championship record, silver at the European Championship, first man to throw over 71 meters 3 times in the same season. Then Brazil's Alison dos Santos, the new, definitely dominated the 400 hurdles this year with the World Championship gold, undefeated the whole season, broke 47 seconds, a record 3 times, and owns 3 of the top 10 marks. Mondo Duplantis improved 3 world records, 2 indoor and the last outdoor, won in 18 out of 19 competitions, jumped 6 meters or more in 15 events. In the steeplechase, Soufiane El Bakali of Morocco, gold at the World Championships, unbeaten all season. The USA's hurdler Grant Holloway, world indoor gold, equaling the world record in the semifinals, ran 5 times under 7.40 in the 60 meters hurdles, and won World Championships gold. Norway's Jakob Ingebrigtsen broke the world indoor record at 1500, was silver at the 1500 at the World Indoor Championships and the World Championships, and gold at 5,000 meters. And again, a gold and a silver at the European Championships. Now, Eliud Kipchoge won the Tokyo Marathon in March with 2 hours 0240, in February. Then in Berlin, he took 30 seconds off the world record, bringing it to 2:01:09. And he has won 15 out of 17 marathons in his career. Amazing. Noah Lyles, gold in 20.31 at the World Championships, beating a historic mark, Michael Johnson's US record. He is undefeated at 200 meters, broke 20 seconds in all his races in both heats and finals. Impressive. Grenada's javelin thrower Anderson Peters, World Championship gold, broke 90 meters 7 times and was silver at Commonwealth Games. And finally, Pedro Pichardo, World Indoor silver, World Championship gold, and his first gold after 2 silvers, and European Championships gold. Now, I'm already showing my cards here because I'd like to highlight the amazing season which Duplantis had. Totally amazing.
Anna,
when winning 18 of his 9 competitions in 2022, he has a total of 54 jumps in his career of over 6 meters. Now, the great Bubka is now has been left behind. He had 46 career jumps over 6 meters. And Mondo is still to turn 23. So I don't know what you think, James, but for me, Mondo and Eliud Kipchoge are my top picks for the male athlete of the year.
And Anna, you are spot on that. And I think Mondo Duplantis is the runaway favorite to win it. Again, I'm Kenyan. I love Eliud Kipchoge, but I'm also honest to myself. I know when I'm up against it. I think Mondo has been exceptional this year. He's just in a class of his own, and he's also very good for the sport because he's bubbly and he's talkative and he's nice. It just so happens, just like the ladies, it's one of those years where you would have turned like this and said, Jakob Ingebrigtsen has had a really, really good year. So you'd think he would be right in the mix. Eliud, of course, 2 marathons in which he is basically a class apart from everyone else. To shave 30 seconds off a world record is incredible. He was able to do it, but Mondo was just that extra special this year. And Anna, maybe it's a thing about people who are citizens of the world, the likes of Roger Federer. When you see him, it's the same thing with Mondo. His roots are not just one. He's got a bit of Swedish, a bit of American, and I think sort of adds into that when you are a United Nation citizen, so to speak. I think you have that little bit extra, but he's a special talent. And like you said, once you pass Sergei Bubka, the great Bubka, and you are not even 23, now it's just you competing against yourself because you've already beaten everyone else. You've beaten history in beating Bubka. So now it's just you versus you. So yeah, he is totally deserving of it, with, of course, an honorable mention to our Eliud Kipchoge.
Thank you. So European Athletes of the Year and Rising Stars will be announced at the Golden Tracks Awards ceremony, which takes place tomorrow evening in Tallinn, Estonia. So here are the European Athlete of the Year finalists. So among the men, Mondo Duplantis, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Miltiadis Tedoglu, and among the women, Femke Bol, Yaroslava Maguchik, and Nafisa Toutiam. Now, Mondo we've already spoken about. Jakob, great success as we saw, but also beaten in the 1500, both at the World Indoor and World Outdoor Championship. I'm a little perplexed, I must say, about Miltiadis Tedoglu. It's interesting to note that he's in the top 3 in the European poll, but he's not included in the World Athletics top 10, where 2 other Europeans, Slovenian Christian Se and Portugal's Pedro Pichardo, figure along with Duplantis and Ingebrigtsen. But we'll see tomorrow night who is crowned European Athlete of the Year. Rising Star category is also very interesting. And here are the finalists. So Lithuania's Mykolas Alekna in the discus throw. He was silver at the World Championships and gold at the European Championships. Italy's Mattia Furlani, who achieved a double in both long jump and high jump at the European Championships, and he was twice top 8 at the World Under-20 Championships. Dutchman Niels Laros, who also achieved a double at the European Under-18 over 1500 and 3000. And he also set 2 European Under-18 bests over the distances. Among the women, 2 of them are high jumpers. Estonia's Carmen Bruus, who is the World Under-20 champion and was 7th at the World Championships. And she equaled the World Under-18 best, as did Angelina Topic, who was Under-18 champion, World Under-20 bronze. She did not compete at the World Championships, and she was a bronze medalist at the European Championships. And the third finalist for the Rising Star Award is Greece's javelin thrower, Elina Genko, who was European Championship gold. As we discuss awards, a special mention goes to Australia's 800-meter Commonwealth Games silver medalist, Peter Bol, who migrated from Sudan to Australia as a teenager with his family. Bol received the 2022 Peter Norman Humanitarian Award for helping and mentoring underprivileged youth. Now, James, solidarity is a big part of Kenya's way of life, and many athletes invest part of their earnings in projects aimed at supporting the community they come from. Tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, yes, and Kenyan athletes, they feel this, I would say, obligation, or they feel moved or driven into helping society, and they do it in a variety of ways, whether it's some in building schools, whether it's in helping the community around them. They're always trying to pitch in something. Now, the 2 most famous ones who've done that are, of course, 2 of the most famous Kenyan athletes before. Dr. Kichoge Keino, of course, with his school, where he has done this for years and years. If you go to his farm, he shows you pictures of those children, and then he tells you the way all of them are all over the world doing great things for him. So he's one of them. Then you've got Tegla Lorupe, who started with the Tegla Lorupe Peace Race to promote peace in the warring communities up in Pokot, where she comes from. And then she did that for so long. Then now she's moved in and she's actually doing work with the refugee team that was at the Olympics. And some of the athletes who we saw do really well this year coming from that refugee team. So those are just 2 examples of Kenyan athletes who've gone out of their way and ensured, let us use our name, let us use our fame, let us use our resources to do good things for the greater community, for the wider community. What stands out for Bol more than anything else is just how young he is. I mean, it's not like he's run for 10 years and then he's retired, now he's looking for something to do. But this is a guy who, he's still active, he's still doing well. He's actually yet to hit his peak as an athlete, but he's saying, whatever small I can do now, let me do that. Now that's really, really unique because most athletes will wait until they're slightly older before they're able to do it. For me, that stands out for him. For him to think, I'm young, but let me go out there and help, even as I am young. For me, that's really, really outstanding of him.
Yeah, definitely. Most athletes start focusing more on this when their active career is over. Even though, if you remember, Maria Mutola had already started her all her activities when she was already when she was still very much competing, and when she won, she became the first athlete to win the Diamond League jackpot of $1 million alone. And when then journalists asked her what she was going to do with the money, and she spoke about her projects, and that finally enabled the spotlight to be placed on all her activities. So definitely a lot of athletes in Africa or of African descent really consider this an important part of being an athlete and a human being. And that's something I very, very much appreciate. So let's look now at upcoming events as we reach the end of our show. So in the next fortnight, on the 23rd of October, cross country in Zornoza International Cross Country in Amorebieta, Spain, a cross tour gold. On the same day, another cross tour gold in Bydgoszcz, Poland, and the Valencia Half Marathon also taking place. On 6 November, New York City Marathon, the last of the world marathon majors of the year. Also 6 November, Istanbul Marathon, and four elite marathons in China, Beijing, Wuxi, Changsha, and Xi'an. Now, for many months, all sporting activity in China had been strongly curtailed. Events kept on being postponed, but it seems that now they can go ahead, which is great news. On the 6th of November, also, another world cross tour gold in Soria, Spain. So we're now at the end of our program. It was great having James with us on the show.
Thank you so much, Anna, for having me. And I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you for today. And of course, for all those years, a lot of what I know in athletics, you drummed it in my head between 2007 and 2010 through those programs you used to run for just African athletes to learn how to follow athletes, how to figure out what's happening, how to understand progression, how to understand how an athlete moves from. And you made us not just watch the middle distance, but you made us watch the high jump, the pole vault, and us understand how it works, such that now you'll catch yourself watching the pole vault or watching the high jump. There's a reason why I really, really like Mutaz El Bashim. All that came from you, from the work you did with a lot of us from Africa. And for that, we are forever grateful, because the impact you had still goes on to date. We meet younger people who say, oh, I used to read Motueri's work, I wanted to be like Motueri. So it's really, we are grateful because you gave us that platform and made us understand what is needed to cover athletics, how you must go on about it, and that if you do it that way, then the success does come. So for that, we are very grateful. On behalf of my brother and friend and partner in crime, Motueri Motuata, we are very, very grateful.
Thank you, James. Now, I think it's interesting that you noted that, you also started looking at other events, because I remember at the African Championships in Addis, we had a seminar, and I had coaches from different events come and speak to you. And at the end, I had a questionnaire asking participants what was their favorite session. And I remember very well you had said the discus throw, because this was something that was totally new for you. The coach, South African Kai Preller, had done a fantastic job. But yes, that was also really good that you did find an interest in other events, because some journalists continue to focus only in their comfort zone, on the territory where they feel comfortable. But I thought it was really great that you told me that the best session was the one in the discus throw, because you had learned a lot about an event that you didn't really know or focus on before.
Yes, Anna, because you made us look at athletics as track and field events, not just 800 to the marathon. You made us realize the high jump is just as interesting, the pole vault is just as interesting, the discus is just as interesting. And later on, you get to understand what happens in there. And not just that, even just the rules. Remember, us understanding the rules of athletics. How do you appeal? When do you appeal? What is the gap for appealing? Those are things we learned. And also, it was in that same seminar that you showed us a video of Usain Bolt. Same seminar, and you told us that young man, if he focuses, if he gets ready, if he develops the way he's supposed to develop, he's going to become something incredible. No one is ever going to be able to match him. You said that in April, and then in August, he blew up. So those seminars were so good in teaching us how to watch athletics from an expert eye. You can't be a journalist, but you need to understand what does this mean and what does that mean. And not enough people do that. A lot of people, you're just left to your own devices. But we were able to learn and understand, this is how you follow this. This is how high jump works. This is why the discus is like this. And it's very understated. Most people didn't say it much because most people thought, it's a seminar and it's between a championship and you have to make time to go to the seminar. But when you think about it 10 years later, because 2008 is a long time ago, when you see how much you have benefited from those courses, you look at them and you think, this was so good. The one in Nairobi in 2010 as well, the one in 2010 actually, 2010 in Nairobi, 2008 in Addis, and 2007 before Mombasa, World Cross Country also. So those things were so key, and they are such a vital part in a journalist becoming a good journalist and being able to understand the sport as a whole, not just that you like or that your country enjoys and does produce many, just to be able to see the whole sport from a holistic point of view.
Thank you so much, James. It was great fun in any case. I enjoyed it as much as you guys.
Yes, great fun. We've been to places. We've driven to Pamela Jelimo's home in the middle of the night. Paul Kipsiele's home. We've been to Janet's school. She's doing really well in coaching, by the way, Janet Jepkosgei. So yes, we had loads of fun doing all these things around Eldoret, Kaptagat, Iten, Nairobi, Mombasa, even though Mombasa people stole your computer, but nevertheless, was just great to be able to understand athletics as a whole. And yes, they are fond memories of great days of yore.
Yeah, and those, you mentioned some of the day in the life projects. That was another project that was so good, and the athletes really appreciated the fact that journalists, sometimes you had to overcome a little bit of resistance to get them to agree, but then they were like really appreciative of the fact that journalists had come from so far away to visit them in their home, that they could showcase who they were, as people off the track. Obviously, we also watched training sessions. We learned about their backgrounds by visiting their schools, sometimes their church. So it was really, really interesting.
Because again, Anna, you gave them a human face. Like away from the guy who's all macho, who stands on the track and runs 800 in 142, you gave them a face. Like you could see them in their normal habitat, doing normal things. Remember Pamela Jelimo's having us food in her home. Like she's now not the superstar athlete. She is now just a normal person. And it's also good for us to be able to relate with them and understand, you know what? This is a person at the end of the day. This is not it's not a robot. This is a person with feelings, with emotions, with a family, with connections, with a lot of other things. And it humanized them. Like when you see the work you did in Ethiopia with the likes of Kenenisa, with the likes of Chirunesh, people are able to see them as actual human beings, as people who have feelings and fears and emotions. And it's not something we see a lot, because for most people, you see the athlete within the competing, with the duration of competition. Then after that, we decide they don't have other fears. But it's good, and it helps us even now to understand when Timothy Cheruiyot is struggling in Tokyo last year, you are able to understand his child is sick at home, and this is how it affects them. Because when you see someone in their most comfortable zone or in their comfort zone, they're able to let you in into who they are. And the day in their lives were really, really great. I mean, the Pamela one was really, really, really good. Janet, we spent an evening with Wilfred Bungay at his home. It was just those things that were really, they were very eye-opening. You get to understand the athlete more, and you get to see them as a person, and they also earn your trust because you've gone to their zone. We normally see them at competition, but you are in their homes. They can tell you what they're doing, and some of them do great things. Paul Kipsiele does incredible things, whether it's camps for athletes, whether it's making yogurt at home, whether it's having biogas. Like, he is just an industrious guy. And you look back and you think, this was so important in letting the world know who these guys are. It is so important in letting us understand who they are behind, without the spikes, without their running shoes, just as people, because at the end of the day, we are all human. So you need to be able to understand, who are they? What do they do? And that wouldn't have been possible if you didn't do that, especially in Africa, because like you said, communication in Africa is not the easiest. This is not the US. This is a place where to get to Koyo, where Pamela comes from, took us 3-4 hours then to get out. So it was a really, really unique thing. I really wish it would be adopted now, that you can show athletes who they are and just get people to understand more about the person behind the running, the person behind the fame.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, well. Thank you so much, James. And thank you all for watching, and see you in 2 weeks on Love Athletics to look together at the comments, highlights, and analysis of what's been happening in our sport over the past fortnight. Bye-bye. Thank you.